Welcome to Preppernation. I am John. Of course, things are about to get nasty here in the United States. Be ready to pay more. Now, I'm going to explain to y'all how I came to this conclusion this morning, and I'll explain what I'm talking about, of course. But normally, when things happen in Europe, in the UK, across the pond, as I've heard it called, I know we have a few viewers over there, but mainly the viewers are here in the United States. Here's the thing, though. When we see a trend or we see something going down in the UK or in Europe, normally a few months later, it hits the United States to some degree. Now, I'm talking about shortages. I'm talking about inflation. I'm talking about problems throughout society. Normally, it hits here, okay? So it's yet to fail me. This is a theory that is tested and true, if you will, throughout the entire pandemic. And the UK is now hitting major food inflation. I'm not talking about the food inflation that we have seen throughout the pandemic and post-COVID, okay? I'm talking about major food inflation, stuff that we've been talking about for years now. A lot of things are being blamed. Supermarkets and farmers alike and distributors, they're pointing to several things. Gas costs being the number one thing. They said gas has risen to the point that they've had to pass it off to the consumer. The war in Ukraine is being pointed at directly now. See, because the C-19 is over, and it's been a while. If it were just the C-19 or the aftermath of it, everything would have caught back up by now, the global supply chain. There are a lot of other things going on. The war in Ukraine, that seems like it's going to be a never-ending war. And as we've discussed, in the past, been a while, but Russia and Ukraine, two of the major exporters of grain. The UK right now, not getting a whole lot of grain out of that area of the world. And so they've had to jack the price up on the rest of it. Feed. Farmers are pointing to feed. They're pointing to the cost of fertilizer. And everyone's pointing to, I know this is going to be a shocker. There's a pun for you. Electric. The price of electric is soaring because, climate change. We've got to save the planet, so everybody rushes out now. Everybody's using electric because they think this is going to save the planet. Thus, the electric goes sky high. I'm going to kick some prices your way. Now, this, again, is in the UK, and it is 1 year ago versus today, the inflation that they're starting to see now in food, okay? Sugar is up 47% against 1 year ago. Cheese, 39%. Eggs, 37%. Milk, 33%. Potatoes are going up 28% now. Frozen veggies, 31%. Olive oil, 46%. Your cooking oils in general are very hard to get there, and when you can find them, they're very expensive. Now, in the UK, these foods are called the basket of goods. Here in the United States, we just call them staple foods. I don't know which one sounds fancier, but it's the same concept. Staple foods are normally what people rush out when there's a snowstorm coming, right? The milk sandwiches, got to get the staple foods, got to lock those down. As a prepper, you got to have your staple foods. A lot of the stuff that I just named off, you're going to need, right? Now, there are different ways to go about getting it. You can farm, obviously, and you can get your eggs and you can get your milk. Sugar, you can do a lot of things with sugar. Salts were up there as well, olive oil. So everybody talks about specific problems in this community or on mainstream media, which I totally get, by the way. But what I want to do now is I want to talk about how this is going to affect everything else, how these problems come together and begin to affect other problems here in the United States of America, because I think it's going to set up a chain reaction. I know that's kind of a stereotypical phrase, but I think we're going to see a chain reaction. Here's another number, and this is in the United States, folks. Right now, there are 20 million households in the United States that are behind on their utility bills. Their electric, or their water, or heating oils and things like that. Maybe they've secured heating oil on credit. Now they can't figure out how to pay for it. I think what happened was, this is opinion on my part, but I think it'll hold up. During the C-19, people use credit cards and they use credit in order to survive. And they've maxed those accounts out. So now they don't know what to do because they owe that money, plus interest. Now they can't afford to pay for the things they need in real time. Okay. They're having to make these tough decisions. And some of you out there, I promise you, that are listening, are having to make these tough decisions. Okay. Maybe you've got rent to pay. Maybe the grocery bills they really have become astronomical on this end. I've seen inflation 6%. That's nonsense on groceries. It's not 6%. Okay. And knowing that we're getting ready to see a lot more on staple foods, again, if that track with the UK holds true, I mean, that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. Speaking of, another pun, medicine. A lot of people are struggling to pay for medicine as it stands right now. Utilities, gas, I mean, all of these things are on the table. They're all expensive now. And people are having to pick and choose. Am I going to do without medicine and eat this month? Am I going to eat this month and just try not to go anywhere and save on gas money? And it looks like a lot of people here in the United States are just not paying utility bills. That's where they're cutting it out. They're like, I've got to have my food, I've got to have gas, I've got to have my medicine, I've got to pay my rent. I'm just not paying my water bill. I'm just not paying my electric bill. And I think part of this, people got used to the idea of government assistance. Now, some people have always been used to that idea, okay? But I think during the C-19, there was so much assistance available and so many pieces of paper signed with free money handed out, right? That people just got used to that concept. Seriously, during the C-19, it felt like your government, whether it was the federal government or the state government, telling you, hey, you just stay at home. The government's got you, son. Go ahead and stay at home. We'll take care of everything for you. And people are creatures of habit very often. I'm not saying anybody in this chat is, but I'm saying there are people out there right now that are trained because of 2.5 years plus of federal assistance or state assistance. Their mind and their lifestyle is trained to that now. They have forgotten, hey, I'm supposed to go out and earn money to pay these bills. They've gotten used to the concept. The government will sign some bill into existence and they will pay everything. But I think that they've started to figure this out. The free ride is over, if you will. It's time to get back to it. Time to get back to work. And then these people turn to food banks, because food banks, I mean, during the pandemic, they were hammered, but even after the fact, you still have people going to food banks, exhausting the supplies that are there, because again, food costs so much right now, and it's getting ready to get, I think, monumentally worse. And then they went to churches. When the food banks were totally overwhelmed, they went to churches. Do you have food? Do you have help paying rent? Do you have help paying water and lights? And then they went to any other charity organization in existence. Can you please help us pay this? And there's nothing wrong with charity, okay? But charity is not there as life support for the rest of somebody's life. They're there to help temporarily till you get back on your feet and you get to it, so to speak. And a lot of these people, I think they're not willing to do it, or they forgot how to do it maybe. There are too many people in need, and that's the problem. A lot of your food banks, if you see them on social media or you call them up or whatever, a lot of food banks run out of churches and things. So if you go to the church, they don't have a lot. They're hurting for donations. They're not begging, but they're like, please, can you help us with donations? We're totally exhausted here. We don't know what we're going to do. It's because you have so many people that are in need right now. And I think this is why things are about to get really, really nasty, because so many people are behind the eight ball, so to speak, financially. And it just continues to get worse. You know how our government doesn't know what to do financially, so they kick the can down the road. We'll deal with it next year, or we'll deal with it next month. This is the mindset that a lot of Americans have had during and just after the C-19. And now that that stuff is no longer available, that assistance, they don't know where to kick the can to. And now they're getting ready to have to pay all this stuff back. And this is on top of food prices. And I believe gas prices and other things are getting ready to skyrocket due to the war. For millions of Americans, the hits keep coming. I mean, take a second and step back and just think about that. Think about how many hits we've had to absorb, a little boxing term there, for the last 3 years, 4 years maybe. How many things have happened in your life? How many changes have you had to make? We went from we bought one or two things off brand to everything is off brand. Coupons, buying wholesale, wait until it's on sale, stack it to the rafters. We've had to make a lot of changes. And I get, you want to be a producer and not a consumer, but I'm also, I'm realistic. People do go to the store. Son, just saying, most people do. And we're in that group. So we've had to make a lot of changes, tons. And fortunately, we're able to pay our utility bills, and we're able to buy groceries, and we're able to buy gas and stuff like this, but we continue to see it go up. The premiums on insurance just went up. It's like the free enrollment period or something. So that's another hit we're going to have to absorb. And now we're seeing food prices beginning to tick up. And I think that we're going to mirror in many ways the United Kingdom. How many more hits can we possibly take before we're just exhausted? I know people get tired of we talk about it sometimes in chat, the slow burn. Let's hurry up and get it over with. Let's hurry up with this collapse already. The worst part, I don't think, is going to be the collapse at the end. It's the lead up. It's the slow burn. It's hearing for 5 years, 6 years, there's going to be a food shortage. And seeing it day to day in real time via inflation, just boom, boom, boom. Food is getting more and more scarce. It's an issue. And I get it's not as scary to talk about as war. It's not as scary to talk about as nukes, for example. But it is affecting everybody in real time. Unless you live in the mountains and you consume nothing and produce everything, it affects you. You're paying extra for something, I promise you. People will say, well, when are we going to see this happening? It's happening to you right now. If you're watching this on the internet and you're paying for said internet, it is happening to you right now. All right, so anyway, how can we save money? That's tomorrow's topic. How cheap can we possibly get? I'm going to bring a list of things that we do here at the Ponderosa that are cheap, that save us a lot of money. I'm going to bring some visual aids as well. And I encourage anybody that's cheap or that wants to be cheap, son, to be in the chat tomorrow. Because there are probably going to be a lot of great ideas and cheapness exchange. There's nothing wrong with being cheap. Financially aware, if you want to sound fancy about it. Y'all take care and God bless.